Welcome to the Civil Engineering Open House. We'll get started in a few minutes. Okay, we'll begin now. Thanks everybody for joining us. We are going to be together for about the next hour, and how this will work is I will give a brief presentation at the beginning to give you a little bit of information about civil engineering and our department, and then we will use the chat box for questions. So you'll post some questions and I will just work my way down and answer all those questions for you, or as many as we can get to. This meeting is being recorded so that we can share it for those who are either in another room right now or unable to attend today. So you'll be able to return back for any information that you might be looking for. I thank you in advance for keeping your volume muted and your video off. That will allow us to maximize the feed for anyone else. And we will, okay, we need to do closed captioning. So if you give me 1 minute, I will take care of that and we'll begin. Okay. Apologies for that delay. So we will begin now. So thank you for coming. I am Dr. Laura Sullivan Green. I am the department chair in Civil and Environmental Engineering. And I have been a department chair for nearly 5 years, as well as been at the university for almost 13 now. So we'll talk today for a few minutes about the department and some of the things that you can expect from the department. Also, what you can expect if you receive a degree in the civil engineering department. So we are a unique program because we support all 6 major disciplines in civil engineering. So we offer courses in both water resources engineering and environmental engineering. We have geotechnical engineering, which is associated with soils and rocks and foundations and retaining walls, as well as structural engineering, which is primarily structural buildings, but it can be expanded past that. And then we also have courses in transportation as well as construction. So when you come to San Jose State in the civil engineering program, you will be exposed to courses in all 6 disciplines and have the opportunity to take electives in all of them as well. So civil engineering, oftentimes you come across civil engineering works without even really thinking about it in your day-to-day lives. You can thank a civil engineer if you drank some water or have eaten food, if you've used the restroom, showered, or brushed your teeth, if you've driven on a highway or over a bridge, if you travel on a bus or on a train or even on a plane, if you've entered a building or parked in a parking garage, and also if you've used electricity. There are a lot of fields that a civil engineer can go into and make a difference in our day-to-day lives. And we often don't think about it until something breaks. So one of the things I get asked very often, primarily from parents, is if my child gets a degree in civil engineering, are they going to have a job? And to that, I respond with this figure. This is the ASCE, the American Society of Civil Engineers report card. And they release this report card every 4 to 5 years, and they give our nation's infrastructure a grade. If you look at the bottom red line, you can see that in 2017, which was the latest report card that we have available right now, our overall average is a D+. That's across the country. And you can see some of these grades that are pretty disappointing. You can see transit and wastewater. Sorry, new mouse that I'm getting used to. You can see roads, energy, hazardous waste, dams, and drinking water. I would be really unhappy if one of my kids came home with this report card, as I'm sure many of you would be as well. And in 2017, the estimate from the ASCE was that we would need an investment of $4.59 trillion to maintain these grades, not to improve them, but to maintain them. And that's a very disappointing thing. It's great to hear that our current president, Joe Biden, is talking about an infrastructure plan. That is a great way to invest in our country that starts in the most basic way with infrastructure, and that's broadly defined. It's not just civil engineering infrastructure, that makes an impact at all levels of our life, not just in the immediate infrastructure. So hopefully we will see that happen in the upcoming years. This report card it compares the US's report card to California. California overall fares slightly better than the country, but we have some real concerns here as well. And you can see here that some of our biggest concerns are in inland waterways and levees, and roads. And we all know this. We hear lots of things about the levees in the area between us and Sacramento, and how the Delta levees may fail, and we may have issues with our with our food and our agricultural lands. That is a very big concern. And here are some estimates that we have that estimate what we need to improve our infrastructure in the state. They're estimating $51 billion for drinking water over the next 20 years, 45 billion for levees, and that's needed immediately. Everybody's kind of holding their breath, hoping the big one doesn't happen, because if it does, and it's in an area that would affect our delta levees, we would see some very, potentially some very major failures that would be concerning. We would need $130 billion for our roads. We always complain when we see a lot of construction on our roads, but it's a really good thing to have so that we can travel in a more effective and efficient manner, saving gas and fuels so that we can have less greenhouse gas emissions. There's a $3.2 billion gap in spending on schools and for education. We know in the CSU that the state's portion that they are helping fund for each and every one of our students, including you, is going down. So to maintain the quality of education, we need some more dollars in there. And then an estimated $26.2 billion in wastewater over the next 20 years. That's a lot of money that we need. And it's difficult to get the funding for, but it is very much worth it when we see it come to fruition. And you can find out more about these report cards at infrastructurereportcard.org. There's lots of great information available there. So a minute or two on these different areas of specialization. I named them before, but I want to give you an idea of some more specific things that you could use your civil engineering degree in and have a meaningful impact. So for structural design, you could build anything from basic, strip mall or box stores, all the way up to skyscrapers with structural design. Bridge design can be anything from simple overpasses and underpasses along our major highways to things like the Bay Bridge. For water resources and environmental engineering, there's a lot of overlap in these two areas, but you can do anything from wastewater treatment or pollution control and remediation. We have a lot of Superfund sites across this country that have pollution that happened 40, 50 years ago that need to be taken care of. We need our water distribution systems to be properly designed and maintained. Environmental engineering, you can do sanitation engineering, which can be related to landfill design or things like that. Pollution prevention and remediation, and industrial health and safety. There's a lot of things you can get into in environmental engineering, even if you have a civil engineering degree. For transportation, you can do basic things like roadways, mass transit, or traffic planning, or you can get into the more tech industries with smart transportation. There's a lot going on in those fields that you can make a big difference with. Construction engineering. Construction engineering is kind of a happy place where you can get involved with any and all of these disciplines, depending on what type of projects your company might be involved in. You can do cost estimation, trying to predict how much a project would cost and planning for a proper budget. You can do project management or project planning, which is a little more, project management is a little more in the field, a little bit more watching what's happening as things get built, as opposed to the preparation part, which would be more project planning. And you could do geotechnical engineering, which, I'm a little biased, I'm my favorite. You can do things as simple as foundations, or you could do things like building levees or maintaining levees, soil remediation, retaining walls, deep foundations, all kinds of things that you can get involved with in geotechnical. And it is also one of those fields where you kind of can touch on all of the other civil engineering disciplines, even though you're in just one field. One of the things we pride ourselves most on in our department is student engagement in our department early and often. So on the academic side, we have 2 lower division classes that you can take as a freshman or sophomore that bring you into the department curriculum. So you can be exposed to your fellow civil engineering students and faculty members in the department. And those 2 classes are CE8, which is surveying, and CE20, which is a combination of drafting and programming. Those classes get you in with us early, and we hope to keep you from that. And then also on the academic side, one of our student clubs, Chi Epsilon, they offer tutoring for our students. So from lower division to upper division, if you need help, Chi Epsilon is there to help you. And they are maintaining that tutoring service, even though we are still remote right now. Another part that is very fun is our student clubs. We have lots of student clubs, and these are just a handful of the larger ones that I'm putting here. But the biggest one is our ASCE student club. Again, American Society of Civil Engineers. They do lots of things from student support to lunch and learns, where they bring in companies that could be potential sources of information, as well as internships for our students. They oversee the mid-pack competition, which if you've heard of things like the concrete canoe or the concrete bowling ball or the sustainable doghouse or the geo wall, those things are all part of that mid-pack competition. And there's many more competitions that are part of that, but we compete against anywhere from about 12 to 20 of our partner universities around the world, actually around the Pacific Rim. Then there is ACI, which is the American Concrete Institute Club. They're very active. Our AGC Club, Association of General Contractors Club, they go to a competition every year under Dr. Peon, our construction faculty member. And then there's Chi Epsilon. Yes, they offer the tutoring, but Chi Epsilon is, in a bigger sense, the National Civil Engineering Honor Society. So if you're in the top third of your class, you will get invited to join Chi Epsilon. And unlike ASCE, which is an annual membership, once you're a member of Chi Epsilon, you're a member for life. And Chi Epsilon also does lunch and learns. They have their competition called PDC that we compete with universities across the state primarily. And it's a lot of fun. Oh, okay. Where's my previous slide? Okay. Oh, nope, that's it. Okay, so I'm going to stop the slideshow there. And I am going to open it up to your questions now. So from Avilia, is it fairly easy to get major classes in your first 3 years to graduate in 4 years? Are most CE classes lecture style or hands-on? That is a great question. So if you do what you're supposed to do, which is get your hold removed, get your advising and your hold removed every semester, you're required to see an advisor every semester to make sure you're making progress, then very rarely do we see students have an issue getting classes in time to graduate in 4 years. Our 4-year graduation rate for our first-time Frosh and our 2-year graduation rate for our transfer students is making significant improvements now that we've put some more support structures in place. And I always deal with the problem students as department chair, and very rarely do I see that happen. Are there other questions? Anybody else have questions about academics or that? Oh, I'm sorry, the lecture style or hands-on. So we have a combination for our lower division classes, CE8 and CE20, as well as the core class in 5 of the 6 disciplines. So transportation, geotech, water, structural and environmental, not construction. They are lecture lab classes. So they have 2-unit lecture and then a 1-unit lab tied into it. So you get a lot of hands-on experience, a lot of time in the lab doing supportive calculations with your faculty members, lots of small group activity like that. Our electives and anything, what we call the foundational classes, so our civil engineering econ class, our statistics or numerical solutions, those are lecture only. So we have a nice variety for you. So I had somebody ask me, which CE specialization am I most fond of? I'm a geotechnical engineer, so I have a soft spot for that. but all of them give you great opportunity for a variety of careers and plans. In what year do you choose a specialization? So we say that the bachelor's level is not a specialization degree, and that is our national ASCE's stance on that. So you will take classes in all 6 disciplines, and you can take 3 electives, and usually it's 2 in one discipline and 1 in a third. And then we generally encourage students to consider the master's degree as their opportunity to specialize. And that's not just us, that is a national trend. But when you take those electives, that's usually in your late junior or senior year that you get involved in the electives. Okay, available resources on internships for civil engineering. So there's a lot of things that both the university and the department does to support that. The university has the Career Center, and they have their career fair that is for STEM in general. But we also have ASCE sponsor their own career fair that is for civil engineering specifically. So you'll have an opportunity there to meet different companies. And you have lots and lots of companies that do come to that. But one of the best resources that you can have is connecting with your fellow students. They get internships, they know if their company is hiring. So the more socially active you are in the civil engineering clubs, the higher the chance that you will find somebody who's saying, yes, my company's hiring. Do you want to apply for an internship? If you have to take pre-calculus in your first semester, how does that affect your other classes? And will it add another semester to graduation? Laura, that one's kind of up in the air. It really depends on you. Technically, yes, you can start in pre-calculus and be done in 8 semesters. It affects a little bit of the flexibility that you have in terms of what you do each semester. So a lot of times we encourage students who start in pre-calc to consider a summer class in that first semester, or I'm sorry, that first summer after your first academic year, to make sure that you have that and you gain that flexibility back. But it is still doable to do in 8 semesters if you start from pre-calculus. Do I have a slide on the civil engineering roadmap? I'm sorry, no, I don't, but you can easily get that if you go on to the catalog website. They have those for all of our majors, and it is up to date for the current catalog. Are CE students hired into public or private companies, or both? What percentage? We really see both. As far as percentage, the unfortunate thing is most of our students get internships not through the Career Center, which is how we get our data. So I can't say specifically. One of our most popular employers, though, is the city of San Jose, because City Hall is just a block off campus. So they are one of our largest employers. But you have the opportunity to work with both types of organizations at the career fair and that. So it's really your choice that you can choose. And they're pretty well balanced. It's not skewed one way or the other, but as far as exact percentages, I really don't have those. As a transfer student without taking major courses, can we still apply for internships? Syed, that really depends on the company. Some allow students to apply as early as their sophomore year, which would mean that they would have basically a calculus level and physics level education, not too much specific in the major. It just really depends on the organization. Sometimes they want to get students early on so that they can groom you through the years. But sometimes they do require a junior or a senior level student for that. But there's usually opportunity at both types of organizations. What types of internship opportunities are available? Parth, so all kinds. Like, as I mentioned previously, there's a lot of opportunity both in the public and private sector for our students to have internships for. Does this, Anju, Does the specialization in structural primarily focus on buildings or other objects as well? So our structural classes are for structural analysis, which applies to any type of structure, concrete design, which is primarily buildings, steel design, timber design, and seismic design. So primarily it is around structures. There's not a lot of programs around the country that really do anything beyond that kind of basic level at the bachelor's. If you're really interested in structural as your specialization, you really are going to need to explore getting a master's degree, because structural is one of the most demanding classes as far as having structural dynamics, mechanics foundation, as well as then the advanced design classes. So will fall first semester courses for freshmen be mostly online or in person? So for the department, we are planning on having our CE8 and CE20 classes be hybrid mode. So there will be some in-person activities, but we are likely to have at least one lab section for each class remain online, out of recognition that we may have students who are unable to attend campus for either personal or health reasons. As far as other classes, math classes, GE classes, we have no way of managing that. So you would have to check with the other departments for the classes that you're taking. So again, another private message, required classes need to graduate, and what spaces you can fit electives into. So again, if you go to the roadmap through the catalog website, you just search catalog.sjsu.edu, and you'll be able to find the 4-year roadmaps that are available there. So Omar, I took calculus AB my junior year and passed the AP. However, my senior year, I took a break from math and have forgotten a few things. Is it possible to start in Calc AB again my freshman year? So our first calculus class is Math 30, Calc 1. And Omar, I believe if you have a score of 3 or higher, that they will automatically place you in Math 31. If you have concern about that, the group to contact about it is the Engineering Student Success Center, the ESSC, and they may be able to provide you more specific information about what they do with those AP scores and how they could potentially accommodate you. Worst case scenario, if you really feel like you don't have that good foundation, I would encourage you to consider possibly retaking a calc class at a community college over the summer, if it's possible. We all kind of have our own AP standards, so it's hard to say how they do that. And the department, since we don't control the math classes, we don't have a lot to do with how the math department handles those AP scores. Other questions? We've still got about 30 minutes here together, so I'm happy to answer any type of questions that you might have, whether general, academic, student club related, more specific. So do we recommend students who are planning to live on campus sign up to be involved in the CEL housing? So CEL is a great program. They have really good outcomes for students who are involved in that. So I always think any support like that you have in your first year, that it is going to pay off more than it may hurt you. So it is definitely a good option to consider and to try to get involved in. How can you stand out to get an internship? So one of the big things that our employers often talk about is students who have soft skills. So communication. One of the rules of thumb is make sure you can write, both in an email or memo format, as well as in report format. The idea that if you go into engineering, you will never have to write again it couldn't be further from the truth. is really important to have those skills. The ability to communicate orally is another one of those skills that they want to make sure that you can do. So can you express yourself? And then always one of the things that we have students kind of prepare for is both their having the resume be a strong resume, and ASCE as well as the Career Center offer help with that, resume workshops. And if you do the resume workshops, you can usually get into the career fairs early, as well as preparing what they call an elevator speech. If you are in a position walking around a career fair, if you walk up to an employer and they ask you questions about yourself, can you answer them? If they ask you to tell them about you, can you say who you are, what you're studying, what you're interested in, what your career goals are? If you can't communicate those effectively, that can be a challenge for employers to feel like you may be a good fit for them. So those soft skills, those communication skills, those collaborative skills, those teamwork skills, those are the things that generally set you apart. Some of the other things that students report back to me is big things that come from employers when they're doing interviews and things, is seeing things like ASCE, mid-pack on there, seeing Chi Epsilon. They go back and they go, oh, I did concrete canoe when I was a student. Are you involved in that? What did you do in your year? That kind of thing. So making sure that you have those things that they can relate to on that resume is a big bonus for you. So I'm taking a Calculus 1 course over the summer at my local community college. What happens if I'm placed into pre-calculus but have this Calc 1 credit? So Parth, you would want to speak to an advisor in your orientation, and they can help determine where you should go with that calculus class. The self-directed placements from last year and this year operate a little bit differently. So I'm not up to the most current understanding of how exactly those work. But those are the people to communicate with questions like that. And if you have a Calc 1 class, I would imagine as long as you have a sufficient grade that they would find that appropriate. How do I think classes will be next fall? So Malia, the department is taking a conservative approach. We want to make sure that our students and our faculty and staff are, number one, safe. So we are offering a variety of courses. I would say if I wanted to generalize it, we are still primarily remaining online, but having some hybrid options across the curriculum so that students who are living on campus already, or international students who need to meet certain visa standards, that they have those options for them to do that. So what I did to make that decision, aside from the guidance from the university, is I polled our current students, and we had a variety of feedback from it. And that is where we are drawing our approach from, is from input from the students as well as the faculty. So I live on the East Coast, so I'm not entirely sure how colleges decide on scholarships in California. Does SJSU give merit scholarships? So Laura, we are not involved with any of the financial aid, including the scholarships at the university level. I am not sure how much merit scholarship is offered, especially for out-of-state students. The general rule of thumb is out-of-state fees are not one of the first things that we support. The department has a variety of scholarships for our students that we offer annually. They're offered in the spring, and students are informed in the spring, and then it applies for the subsequent fall semester. And those scholarships range from $250 up to about $3,000. And they vary in their requirements from just interest in certain disciplines to GPA and other things for that. So we have about in any one year, we have about 5 to 15 scholarships, depending on how the market goes, if we have funds that can pay out or not. Other questions? Anybody have any questions or comments? Give everybody an opportunity. So while we're waiting, so here's another one. So what exactly is civil engineering? So civil engineering is one of the oldest engineering disciplines, really only rivaled with mechanical engineering. And civil engineering, very loosely, is the engineering that deals with infrastructure. And that infrastructure can be anything from buildings and roads to bridges to foundations to the water distribution systems under your streets, to water treatment and sewers. So civil engineering takes care of all of those different aspects of our day-to-day lives under one umbrella. Students often come in not sure which discipline of civil engineering they are most interested in, which is why we feel it is important to maintain access to students for all 6 disciplines. Odds are you're going to take classes in one area that you love and 1 or 2 areas that you're really not a fan of. A lot of times our students come in and they're either driven by the, like I would say, the structural and construction side of things. And then we have another batch that kind of comes in under the water and environmental side. But we have students who come in and think they're going to one area and then they decide that they take a class in something else, and that's where their interest lies. That's how I started my education. I went in thinking I was going to be a structural engineer, and I took my first structural engineering class and I was like, yeah, that's okay. It's interesting, but it's not fabulous. And then I took my first geotech class and I was sold. So you come in with one idea and you find often that you go in a completely other direction, but still under the civil engineering umbrella. And I have students tell me that for internships, it's often as much figuring out what they don't want to do as figuring out what they do want to do. So how has this year gone compared to other years in terms of student grades and teaching? So our faculty have done a lot of professional development, I'd say higher than average across the university, to make sure that we are offering students a quality education, even though we are still in a remote environment. So I would say looking at student grades, we're seeing we're seeing a little bit of a, instead of like the kind of the bell curve where you see a lot of students in the middle, we're seeing that kind of middle level sort of flatten out, and either students are doing really great remote or they're struggling a little bit, either because of personal issues or they just are not great in the online environment. But what we are seeing is student responses for teaching is overall quite positive. There's, a little bit here and there of faculty who are struggling with one course or another, but students are pretty positive overall as to the type of education that they are still receiving from the department. How many students are in the civil engineering program? So we have about 450 undergrad students, and we have about 110 graduate students. So we're right around 550 overall. We are seeing our undergrad population grow. We had a little bit of a dip about 2 years ago in our first-time freshmen, not sure why, but that has since rebounded and stabilized. So we are normally around, I would say, the 500 mark for our undergrads. So are there any projects for structural or general civil engineering? So we do not have project classes in our undergraduate degree, but we always have faculty who are doing research, and oftentimes they are interested in hiring our students to do that work. So if you're interested at all in doing any graduate level work, whether a master's or a PhD or both, then having one of those research opportunities is a really good idea for you to explore. And some of our faculty are a little more research active than others. We have our structural faculty who are involved in that. We have our construction faculty who have some projects. And then we have our younger faculty in water and systems who are a little more research active than some of us. I am not currently research active because I have a lot of administrative responsibilities. So you do have the opportunity to do that type of work with faculty if you are interested. So do senior civil engineering students have a capstone project? So Laura, not a standalone project, but what we do have as sort of our culminating experience for our undergraduate students is a structural project in our structural concrete class that serves as kind of that project experience. You will work in a group, you will do a design project from the start of the semester to the end of the semester. You will do a presentation and things like that. That is that kind of project experience there. And then we have our systems course, which is a unique experience. We've had it for about 7 years now. And what we're seeing is actually a lot of programs across the country now start to adopt this model where students aren't just asked to design a beam or a foundation or something. They're asked to look at a project from start to finish as a system and choosing the pros and cons and making decisions for that project based on those things. So you're really looking at the whole design to construction process as a system and trying to decide how you go through that. So it's a really unique course, and students who invest in it really have a positive experience out of it because it is pretty unique. Can you take CE 8 or 20 in the summer before fall 21 or equivalent courses in community college? So Syed, we do not offer summer courses other than our curricular practical training courses, which is our courses for our international students to have internships. You can take equivalents of those courses at community colleges if you can find them. So CE 20, since it's a combination course of drafting and programming, you usually have to take two unit classes at a community college to get our CE 20 credit. CE 8, there are equivalencies out there. It's just up to the community colleges whether they offer them or not. And some of them are a little more active than others in offering that course. Okay, so Jason, how many math courses are used in the major? So we have 4 courses in the math department that our students take: calculus 1, 2, and 3, as well as differential equations. And then we have 2 courses in the major, one on probability and statistics and one on numerical solutions. So those are really the math classes that you'll take as part of the program. You also will take 2 physics courses and a 5-unit chemistry course. And those are really the sciences that you'll take to prepare for the program. We still have about 14 minutes left if there's any more questions. Oh, so how many civil engineering students are graduating this year? You know, Laura, I don't have that number currently because we don't find out until about May. Students apply for graduation and then they discover that they made a mistake in a class that they're taking or they don't pass. But normally in a year, we'll see about 50 to 70 graduate across the 2 semesters. But the exact number we don't find out until it's a little bit later in the semester. In a couple weeks, we'll have the more firm number for that. So I'm not really strong in chemistry. How prominent will that class be in this major? So Andrew, chemistry is one of the foundational sciences that you are expected to take as part of our accredited program. And it's primarily applied in our environmental courses. So you will absolutely use it in our CE 170, our environmental engineering course that all students have to take, as well as the environmental electives. You might see it smattered through other classes. There's a little bit of it in our soil course, our geotechnical engineering course, CE 140, but you'll primarily come across it in our environmental curriculum. Can I graduate in 3 years? Well, I guess that depends on if you mean 6 semesters, meaning 3 years or over 6 semesters. That would be a little bit hard unless you had a lot of AP credit for your GE courses and your math courses. 3 years, if you include summer in at least the first, if not the second summer, it might be possible, but it would be pretty challenging. You'd have to sit down with an advisor and have a really serious talk about workload for that, because you're probably looking at 17 to 19 units every semester, where a program is set up for 15. And you'd have to find summer courses that are available to you, possibly at the university, but also possibly at community colleges as well. So possibly, but the odds of it, I wouldn't say are super high. So if you took AP Stats and AP Physics 1 with a 3 grade or more, will those cover some of the math courses? So Angelo, the stats will not. We do not have an AP for ours. It's probability and statistics in civil engineering. So it's geared towards civil engineering examples and problems. So that would not be doable. The AP Physics, you would have to look at in the catalog at the AP section to see if the physics is accepted at all, because I know there are different AP Physics tests, as well as if a 3 is accepted or not. I know it is in the calculus sequence. I'm not clear if it is in the physics, but that's pretty easily findable in the catalog. And it would have to be for Physics 50, not our Physics 2A to B sequence, which is, I think, where it sometimes gets confusing, because Physics 50, 51, and 52 are the physics for STEM majors, and those are the courses you have to take. If the AP Physics you took is for Physics 2A, then it won't count for anything in the major. Similarly, I've done a couple of college classes for credits. Does that make a difference with my graduation time? Malia, it really depends which classes they are. If it's in the GE area, sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't. And again, I would encourage you to talk to the advisors at your orientation to discuss exactly what that looks like for you. If they are classes that are STEM, like the calculus and physics, it may help. It may, if you, it might take a semester off, but we'd have to look exactly at the pathway, because our one pathway that starts at Calculus 1 is a 7-semester pathway, assuming you don't take anything in the summer or have any hiccups in your academic performance. So it might take a semester off, it might not. It just depends what kind of courses they are and how many units you took. So any other questions? Okay. So your older brother went to Stony Brook University in New York and took a chemistry class that was specific to engineering. Does SJSU have something similar, or is it just regular chemistry 1? So our Chem 1A is the chemistry for STEM majors. So it is specific to STEM. So you'll see engineering students in there, you'll see biology students, you'll see chemistry students, you'll see physics students in those classes. The non-STEM courses, I believe, are still Chem 30 A and B for that. So yeah, we do have a specific one, and it is a 5-unit chem class. So if anybody has taken chem somewhere else, we really need to make sure those units are there to get the equivalent of our 5-unit chem 1A for STEM. So I've completed AP Calc AB and BC with a score of 3. Where would you be placed in math? So I believe if you've taken the BC, so a 3 does count in math. I do know that for the chem. I think if you have the BC, you will be placed in math 32, which is Calc 3. So yeah, and again, you can look that up pretty easily in the catalog for AP credits, and it'll tell you pretty specifically. And we do follow that pretty stringently. So if you took the AP, they generally don't permit you to repeat a course in math. So I completed an associate degree. With that, I'll be credited in SJSU. So Jason, we don't have what's called the ADT, Associate Degree Transfer, in engineering because we have too many engineering courses at the lower division that impact, that you can't always find at a community college. So we don't actually have ADTs, but for your GE package, you may find that that really clears out a lot of those units for you. So you would start pretty strongly. Now, if there's no math or science in that associate degree, I think you'll find that it won't give you you'll still be here because of the sequences. But if you have some of that science and math stuff in there, you might take a year or 2 or 3 semesters off of your degree program. It just depends what you took. I took math 130. Would I be in pre-calc? Malia, I'm not sure what math 130 is. So if you want to give me more info in there, that would be very useful. So Jason, you took all the math and physics. So that would help because you spend definitely the first year, really more like the first 2 years, primarily looking at those science and math classes. So you'll take Calc 1, 2, and 3, you'll take Diff EQ, you'll take the 2 physics, you'll take the chem. And between those, let's see, that's 10, 13, so that's 26 units right there. So that's almost 2 full semesters worth of work off. So if you added any GE into that, you'll see a definite, at least a year pulled off of that because 30 units is considered 2 semesters worth of work. So I hope we have another student coming in. So yeah, Malia, if you tell me what you mean by math 130, I can possibly give you some more info into that. Other questions from students? We've got about 5 minutes left. It's a college class and it's named Math 130. So if it's a pre-calculus course and it has an equivalency at San Jose State, that would help tell you where it is. So if you go either to assist.org or into the SJSU catalog and look at the articulations, you'll be able to see what that Math 130 is. I'm assuming you took that at a community college to see what it is in our program. If it is equivalent to, say, our pre-calculus, it will, as long as you receive a satisfactory grade, it will count as a prereq to your Calc 1 class. If it's a Calc 1 class and you do well, it would be into Calc 1. If it's anything other than pre-calc or calc, if it's a class that is not to that level, there's a lot of algebra courses and just basic college math classes, then Calc 1 is considered the starting point for engineering degrees. So you would see that class would not satisfy anything in your degree. If it is considered a prerequisite to a course like pre-calc, then it would, it may satisfy that, and then you may get put into pre-calculus. But it also depends on your self-placement assessment that they do to place you in a math class. Do most students that take the PPA test pass it to start with calc? So Laura, they changed it, so I don't have statistics on it. What I do know is last year we had a much better, a much more appropriate placement of students in their first math class, whether it be below pre-calc, or Calc 1. So I do believe that the current system that they have to put you in to do your math placement is much improved compared to 2 years ago, where they changed it and discovered that there was a lot of issues in it, and it didn't exactly place everybody where they really probably should have been placed. So it's much better now. So can I explain about the WST? Is it mandatory, and when do we have to take the test? So say the WST, as you said, is the writing skills test. So you do your English 1A and English 1B. And once you complete those courses, I believe you are eligible to do the WST. Now, in the last year, they've done a self-directed placement assessment to determine where, if you can continue on, because the WST is basically a way of saying that you have sufficient writing skills to get placed in your 100W course. And 100W is a standard for everybody across the university to take, that is to satisfy your writing requirement for your graduation. Now, the 100W classes, they are often discipline specific. So all engineering students take engineering 100W. So it takes those writing skills and puts them in context of your engineering degree. You'll write on engineering topics, and you will focus on writing styles that you would experience in engineering more primarily. It is either the exam or the self-placement is necessary. So you would take it, usually students take it between their third and fourth semester or after their fourth semester, because the odds of you getting into, you're not going to get into 100W before you've completed 60 units anyway. And engineering 100W is always high in demand. If you don't have a satisfactory WST test or self-placement, they will ask you to take, I believe it's LLD 100A, which helps give you that some writing help to prepare you for the 100W class. And that's kind of the substitute for the WST if you can't pass it. Now, SJSU is a little bit different than other places. Some CSUs allow, if you get a high enough score on your WST, to test out of your 100W. And to date, San Jose State has not permitted that, aside from the fact that our 100W course is part of our degree, and it satisfies an SJSU studies, so an upper division GE. So you would end up taking the class anyway at this point in time. So when will you be taking the placement tests? So Andrew, the math placement is done before you come. So you get placed in the math properly right away. And then the WST is mid to late sophomore, rising junior level. Is there calculus on the PPA test or only pre-calc? Laura, I'm not sure. We don't see the exam. The math department deals with it, so we don't see anything that's on it. You already took those in college and completed 60 units. So Sayed, you should look and see if you can do either the test or the self-placement. They subbed the test for the self-placement in the last year. They may or may not be continuing to do that after this point in time. You would have to check with the university on that one. So if you're eligible, go ahead and take it. Okay. Oh, my pleasure, Laura. All right, so we are at the end of our time. So if you think of a question later that you didn't ask, or you think of a follow-up or have additional things that you would just like to ask or suggest, I am more than happy to help as much as I can. So feel free to send email to civil-engineering@sjsu.edu. And either my department staff or I would be happy to help you. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your weekend and hope to see you in the fall.